Thank you, Andrea. You know, at the risk of interrupting all your stress relief and relaxation that you were having, it was fun to enjoy you enjoying each other and hearing what you had enjoying the meal. So thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm Kathy Chamlee. I'm the Clinical Services Manager at Baptist Easley, our Pastoral Counseling Department. You may know that we partner with First Baptist Church of Easley and Easley Presbyterian Church to provide counseling. All of our counselors are state licensed marriage and family therapists or licensed professional counselors. And so we provide that service to folks. And since we have the additional help from local churches and the hospital, we can do that on a sliding fee scale for people who don't have insurance. We also have recently gotten a person who can provide services for those who are Medicare eligible. So we're looking forward to that. But today I want to talk to you a little bit about savoring the holidays. Now we think about holidays, and holidays can be full of tradition and opportunities to enjoy one another, family, and friends. And so we think about this Norman Rockwell picture, but also there's another Norman Rockwell picture that comes to mind. Because obviously there are a lot of expectations and stressors that are built into the holidays. Who here has a child who expects a family tradition to be fulfilled come heck or high water? Yeah, and you better have this particular casserole made on this particular day. And there are all kinds of traditions that get stirred up and expectations that get caught up, and people ramp up the expectations starting about now. I have just almost missed my second holiday deadline today. I'll get it worked in, but the deadlines start ramping up early, don't they? It seems to get pushed back early and earlier for all of us. So there are a lot of traditions that get called forth, and we get so much that's expected of us and so many things that are coming at us that it begins to feel like, how do we get through this big old pile of stuff that comes to us? Well, sometimes we just have to learn to push back. Sometimes when the expectations push toward us, we have to begin to figure out, how do we form it? How do we shape a holiday so that it's worth savoring, something that becomes something that we can work with and push back on expectations and traditions and those things that so many people value and tie in with the holiday season. We sometimes have to make choices about how we will shape the holiday in a way. Sometimes there are losses or surprises that come up, and we have to manage things a little bit differently this year. And we have to be able to say yes to some things and no to others. And I think that there is for us an art of learning how to make choices, good choices, and communicate the choices that we make that put us in a position of calling some of the shots, making choices that are artful, that are beautiful, that make something that's much more manageable. Sometimes it takes some creativity, some working together, a little brainstorming to put together a way of making something manageable and beautiful for us. And then we want to slow down. Isn't this a great picture? This is Boris Karloff taking a tea break. Sometimes we just have to slow down after we've taken some time to create this, and make sure that we take some time to savor those moments that we've pulled together so carefully and with so much thought. I want you to consider this. From now through the end of the year, I'm going to promise you that I'm going to take 15 minutes a day just to sit back, to relax, and to think about, we have Christmas holidays for a reason, and it's because that we are cherished in God's very heart. And that can be such a centering thing when we're pushed and pulled around all through the season with, to turn loose of Martha Stewart and Southern Living, to turn loose of Mattel and Legos, and turn loose of Belk and LL Bean and every catalog and every commercial thing that comes away, to just take 15 minutes to push and cast aside all of that, just to relax into the moment and to enjoy some time that's the holiday time. So with that, I want to introduce you to my coworker and friend, Nancy Terry. Nancy is a counselor with our services, and she is also a life coach. And life coaches have a certain spin on teaching, and so I thought you would enjoy hearing from her as well.
You know, as Kathy was presenting this idea of savoring the holidays, I am going to talk to you a little bit about stress, about holiday stress. I don't know if any of you heard stories or often do this, but for those of you that like to watch birds, there are, the people who really watch birds notice that right before a storm, birds begin to act differently. Have you ever watched that happen? They start to go to the feeder and eat as much as they can. They get rather aggressive with each other. They're sort of shoving and pushing, and they're not acting very calm, right? They act very frantic. So as I was thinking about this in the recent Hurricane Sandy, some people were talking about that the birds became very frantic. And it made me think about us as we approach the holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas especially, that we become frantic. And we become a lot like those birds. And even if you're not given to frantic behavior, if you have to go out and buy a gift for anyone, you probably get to watch frantic behavior. Has anybody ever seen that out there? Yeah. So we know that expectations are a big part of that. And Kathy started talking a little bit about expectations, but the thing I want you to know about expectations is that expectations happen to be the way we think. That's all they are. It's the way we think. And if you think with expectations in just the right way, you can have a recipe for how to have holiday stress. Now, I'm going to make a few points about how to avoid holiday stress. And in the area of expectations, there are several things that need to happen. And a lot of this has to happen up here, how you're thinking. One of the things is you have to change your expectations. Many of us will do a comparison with Christmas past. It's almost like a Christmas carol. You know, the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, the ghost of Christmas future. We're either trying to compare our current time frame to something in the past, or we're trying to do something brand new that's very much still in the future that hasn't happened yet, to try to make, you know, it as beautiful as we can for people. It's very important that you don't let your thoughts go into the realm of what might happen. It's much better to bring your thoughts into the place of what can happen. What can happen this Christmas? What can happen this Thanksgiving, 2012? For some of you, that's going to mean that you're going to have to do exactly what Kathy said. Focus on something bigger than you. It's not about circumstances. It's about a bigger picture. That's easy if you have a spiritual tradition or you have a faith in God. If you don't, there are other ways to make your focus be on something bigger, like family. It's also going to be important for you to expect to give of yourself, but not in the buy a gift and wrap it up and give it kind, although that's okay if you want to. It's going to be in helping others. We know from lots of studies that when we help another person, maybe an elderly person or a new mother, give them a helping hand or send a card to somebody, even if it's, you know, a birthday card or whatever, that something good happens to us. Expectations also are going to mean that when we do get stressed, we have to remember gratitude. Gratitude, believe it or not, somebody said gratitude comes before healing. And I thought that was interesting, because when you think about when we go to the place of gratitude, we feel good all over, don't we? It's got to give our immune systems and everything else a nice jolt. Now let's move on to preparation. Preparations are usually, what do you think about when I say the word preparation? What kind of things come to mind? What? Getting ready. What else?
Do it all immediately.
Do it all immediately. Do it all immediately. Busy. Lots of work. Oh my goodness, I love it. Yeah, that's what most people think preparation is. But I'm going to talk to you about your own personal internal preparation. I'm not going to talk to you about how to get those cookies all made before Christmas Eve. I'm going to talk to you about your own insides, your own thinking. So here's what happens. When we become frantic, like the birds do before a storm, our brains think we're going into battle. Now, there's been a lot of activity around when our brains go into battle. We make the list, we're looking at the recipes, we're trying to figure out what days to shop. We're looking at the sales sheets. We're looking at when is Black Friday exactly, and when is the day after Black Friday, and when does Cyber Monday happen, right? That's how we prepare. But there's some interesting research that's come out of, interestingly enough, the military. You know, the military's been very concerned about stress, about PTSD, all kinds of things with soldiers and Marines. Here's what they've discovered. You know the Navy SEALs? Do any of you know a Navy SEAL or ever known a Navy SEAL? And they are really interesting people. The training that they go through, how they even get to be a Navy SEAL, takes an unbelievable amount of perseverance and mental capacity. So people got curious about what makes them tick. How are they so good? They have to go into all this chaos and craziness, and they don't always know what's going to happen. And they discovered, there's a Dr. Paulus who discovered that what happens to Navy SEALs is that we have this place in our brain that lights up and is protective to us. It's called the insula, and it's on the right and left side of the brain. And in Navy SEALs, those parts of the brain light up. They light up very easily. They control things like pain and emotions. It also makes it possible for a person to be more self-aware. They're more aware of sensations. And guess what? It helps them anticipate stress. And it prepares their body for dangerous situations. So, guess what Dr. Paulus discovered? He discovered this really high-tech way of helping all of us, but especially the military, figure out how to light up their insula in their brain so that they could have those benefits. And he found out that 10 minutes per day of meditation, only 10 minutes per day of meditation, makes a huge difference and can make that part of the brain light up. So just imagine, you got your sales sheets out, you're looking at when Black Friday is, you're starting to get a little anxious, maybe you're looking at your checkbook instead of the sales sheets, and you're starting to get a little anxious. I want you to remember this. Now 10 minutes of meditation can simply be, sitting for 10 minutes and allowing a psalm or a prayer to come through your mind, but doing it for 10 minutes. It can also mean listening to music that is very calming and soothing and repetitive. It can mean, if you're able to do this, to just sit still and look at a beautiful picture. You can design it however you want, but the 10 minutes daily is critical. The other thing that they've discovered is how you breathe makes a difference. So breathe and breathe and breathe, but breathe like a baby who is sleeping. Where's the breath for a baby that is sleeping? They do this, don't they? Their bellies go up and down, up and down. You can't keep your breath here. That will make you anxious and stressed. It's got to be in your belly. So while you're sitting there for 10 minutes meditating, let your breath go into your belly. Be a baby again. Have you ever heard anybody say that to you before as an adult? Be a baby again? Okay, it's a good practice. The other thing that they discovered, and I think this is really fascinating, one of the things that the Navy SEALs do, well, we all know they exercise, right? They do a lot of physical stuff. So everybody in here can keep up with their physical workouts, whatever that is. That doesn't hurt. But they discovered that one of the things that helps the Navy SEALs is that they are able to maintain a close-knit community, that they have connections with other people, and in their case, their life depends on it. So during the holidays, it's very important, especially this period of time leading up to it, that you're doing things like this. You're gathering with friends, enjoying conversation. You know, not that kind of party thing where you got to be in the kitchen for 7 hours to do it, but just connecting with your family and your friends. Surround yourself with people, and particularly those that are supportive of you. The research shows that it's more powerful to connect with other people than your genetics. I'm going to say that again. It's more powerful to connect with people than your genetics. Now, I think that's astounding. And that means we all have control over how we help ourselves prepare for these holidays. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is fulfillment. What do you think about when I say fulfillment? It's over? And it is done. Well, that's sort of kind of it, but yeah, there's a little bit more to it. All right. So we know that it does mean accomplishment, completion. It can mean clearly revealed. You know, we kind of think of it like the period at the end of the sentence, right? But here's what I want you to think about. Fulfillment, very often for us, depends on looking outside of ourselves. We look across the room and we say, the Christmas tree is standing up nice and neat and tall and all the ornaments are still on it. Or we look across the room and at the shop and we say, there's the pink sweater I've been looking for 6 days. But the truth is, that kind of fulfillment's kind of fleeting, because for a moment, you get that kind of fulfillment, don't you? That's if you're looking outside. I want you to take a look at what fills you up from the inside, because true fulfillment is the filling up, right? It's not the over there grabbing it and pushing it in. It's truly coming from in you. I want you to break down your holiday into achievable steps. But unlike you've done before, where you're kind of marking them down and you're marking them off, I want you to pause after each step. Pat yourself on the back. Maybe even shout out a hurrah. I want you to hear yourself enjoying each step. Not waiting till December 25th or 26th for some people. I also want you to experience yourself out of that bigger meaning. If it's a faith-filled meaning, then we know it comes from inside, right? And that's a beautiful way to experience fulfillment. And every day you can get up and you can say that to yourself, right? Am I fulfilled in my faith? Where am I in my faith today? That's a filling up. And the most important thing is, I want you to allow the voice of well done to rise up in you. I don't want you to wait for somebody else to tell you. I want you to say it out loud to yourself. Every time you pass a mirror, well done. Okay? Or when you see your good friend, maybe you could say, well, have you told yourself well done today? Now, in summary, I just want to say that avoiding holiday stress is more in your control than you may have ever realized before. But it's an inside deal. It's not from out here. It's not going to come into you. It starts in here first. Overwhelm, if you find yourself overwhelmed, you need to go back to what I said about those steps to take for preparing. Go back to your 10 minutes a day, meditation. Go back to breathing like a baby. You'll never be able to think clearly if you're not taking good care of yourself first. Put your oxygen mask on first. Don't expect other people to do that for you. And I also want you to realize that although you may believe that the calendar and the shopping will do it for you, those are very short-lived. And you'll get a little jolt in your brain chemistry. if you go out there and shop, but then it will end. So it's much better to take the long-term approach, do the daily practice, and take good care of yourself. And I want you to remember this, not stressed, but blessed. Thank you.